Okay, sending invite to my holiday party and... done. Oh, crap. I accidentally sent invite to...
What the? Invitation to Putin's holiday party? This must be some kind of mistake.
Suka. Do I send another message to clarify that it was mistake? Or will then I just look like loser for clarifying obvious?
It must be mistake, right? Should I ask him? But then he will have space to tell me it was mistake, which will be humiliating.
But what if he thinks it's real and then shows up? It will be more awkward than Matty Healy showing up to Taylor Swift's wedding.
Should I just show up? What if he finally does want to meet? No. He would probably tell that Poodle Witkov to let me know first, right?
Maybe I should just ask Poodle Witkov to sort this out.
I wonder who I could call for advice on this question. Maybe the Europeans? No, but seriously, I guess I have to bite a bullet. Hello? President Trump, I need your help.
This again.
Yes. President Putin sent me invitation to his holiday party. Do you know if this is for real?
What? He's having a party and he did not invite me?
Public Somewhere in the city that defined holiday magic is a man who wants a little eggnog with his mistletoe. And that guy would like to carol you. Featuring the musical stylings of Mel Tunney and the Dream in Color Singers. Straight ahead on this edition, movies. Lee Strobel, Phil Cunningham with their latest offerings and the stories behind the narrative. Erika Donalds with an update on America First Education, and Bonnie Keene to describe what Gethsemane Bray is all about. That's straight ahead on That Kevin Show. And now from Times Square, the man who spent all holiday in his Grinch outfit, complaining that the day came in the middle of the week. If anybody can do anything about it, here's the Kevin!
Welcome in, everybody. Welcome to the weekend. Got a lot to get to, and I am so excited. The daily 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern, That Kevin Show on, it's 200 more stations than it was on before. And thank you for those of you that are planning on being with me every day. And please tell your friends. We want to have a huge just party on the air every day. We want to think about things from a common sense perspective. We want to tell the truth. We want to make sure that we're thinking through the biggest news of the day from a rational, positive, God-fearing perspective, because that's what I think we should be. And that brings me to this opening story today that I'm really struggling with. I saw this come across the wires yesterday, but late in the day on Friday, a federal judge said that the Trump administration could not limit commercial driver's licenses for illegal immigrants. Now, this is crazy. It's the Federal Appeals Court in Washington, D.C. And listen to, you know why this came about? Because you saw the video. It went viral. It was that guy, that truck that pulled the U-turn in the middle of the freeway, and he killed a family and messed up traffic for miles. It was hideous. Well, Harjinder Singh, who is an Indian citizen, started to say idiot citizen. No, he's an Indian citizen, who entered illegally into the U.S. from Mexico in 2018, pleaded not guilty to 3 counts of vehicular homicide and 3 counts of manslaughter after jackknifing his truck during an illegal U-turn that caused a van to smash into the side of the tractor trailer. That's what he got arrested for. But here's what the court did. They found that the federal government did not, quote, follow proper procedure when creating the new rule or explain how the rule would promote safety. What's the rule? To limit illegals getting truckers' licenses. Because evidently, now it's not common sense to give illegals truckers' licenses. But listen to this. This is who they want having a license. So the judges noted that the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration says that about 5% of all commercial driver's licenses are belonging to immigrants, and they found that they're only approximating and accounting for about 0.2% of the fatal crashes, but both of which are significantly very, very tiny numbers. But Singh, who received his license in California, failed his CDL knowledge exam in Washington state. Get this, 10 times. He failed it in Washington state 10 times before he supposedly passed it in California. We know how California works, by the way. They do funny stuff down there. They don't follow common sense, math, science, law. And it's like a Wild West weird space down there. That was 10 times within 2 months. He took the test 10 times in 2 months and failed all 10 times. He failed his air brake knowledge exam. You know what brakes are? They're what help the thing to stop. He failed that exam twice in Florida. So he goes to Florida to get his commercial driver's licenses. He fails his brake exam. He goes to Washington to get his CDL. He fails that test 10 times in a row, and finally, California gave him his driver's license. Oh, wait a minute. Nope, they didn't. Hold on. He also failed, in between the other failures, an English proficiency test. So, an audit of California records showed that many immigrants' licenses remain valid long after their work permits expire, leading the state to revoke about 17,000 licenses. He was arrested for allegedly making an unauthorized U-turn in Florida that resulted in the crash. He should have been arrested for the manslaughter and the death of the people. The new DOT restrictions would allow immigrants who hold 3 specific classes of visas to obtain licenses valid for 1 year, though the rules would disqualify about 10,000 of the 200,000 current immigrants with CDLs. The rules would not be enforced, meaning drivers could keep their licenses until they expire. But a judge said, you know what? I know Trump administration. This guy failed his CDL 10 times, failed his English proficiency test, failed his brakes test. He's just failing all over the place at this truck driving stuff. But because you're mean, because you're a big, mean, nasty meanie, we're going to make sure that you can't take his license away. Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy announced in October the administration is now going to withhold about $40 million from California over its refusal to enforce English language requirements for truckers. Do you think that it might be a smart idea there, Mr. Gavin Newsom, to have your truck drivers that you're putting out on the road in huge behemoth machines that are, in traffic with everyday people? Do you think it's a good idea that they be able to speak English? That they be able to read the signs, that they be able to understand where they're going? I'm sure that part of Harjinder Singh's defense was he didn't understand it was an illegal U-turn because he didn't speak the language. No speak English. This is not how it should go. This judge is out of control, as are many of the judges that randomly seem to want to just punish the Trump administration just because they don't like them. But let me ask you, the American people, when you're thinking about common sense, when you're thinking about safety on the roads, would you like to know that the CDL operators out there, the drivers in those enormous trucks going 70, 80, 90 miles an hour on the highway, that the people operating them actually know the language that they're supposed to know and that they actually pass the tests that they're supposed to pass in order to be able to drive that thing? What is with the crazy? And why can't we just solve things with common sense? Yes, let's have truck drivers speak English. Let's have truck drivers be able to maybe take their test the first time they take it. There's not really a good explanation for why California would want to pass on CDLs in such a fashion, and there's really no good explanation at all for why this judge believes that it's the right thing to do to tell the Trump administration that they can't clamp down on it. You know who's doing the right thing? Transportation Secretary Duffy. because he's actually saying, no, we're not going to allow that to happen anymore. You get your people speaking English and passing the test the right way, and then we'll go from there. All right, we've got a huge show for you coming up. We've got sketch comedy from Al Berry, a cartoon from Al Berry. We've got the Babylon Bee. We've got Nick Peterson doing social commentary again this week. I think he's good at this stuff. We're going to probably have more of him as we go along. All that is straight ahead. Kevin McCullough, come follow us at That Kevin Show and have fun all week long. Don't forget the Monday through Friday broadcast, 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern. Kevin McCullough saying, come on back. It's going to be a great one.
From New York, that Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. It's Kevin McCullough. Always pleased to have you with us. That Kevin Show, thatkevinshow.com for everything, including a listing of local stations near you. Again, the new radio footprint. We're in places we weren't before, so thank you for joining us here in this first month. One of my regular guests here who comes from a couple of different perspectives to this show, from America First Policy Institute as its education director, but also as someone who I very much hope will be the next First Lady of the state of Florida, is Erika Donalds. And Erika, it's good to have you back, and welcome to kind of the bigger, broader footprint of what we're doing here. We may be introducing you to a lot of new people today, which, if so, I'm very thankful for it. But for people that haven't heard you with me before, your specialty is in education, and why is that? Why is that your passion?
Well, I started out just as a mom, interested in education, like many moms, for my own 3 boys, and found out how broken the system is. I ended up running for school board to try to fix it, and found out even more how broken it is. So I've been advocating for education policy at the state level and nationally for about 15 years now, trying to break the education monopoly and give every family the education freedom they deserve.
One of the things we have talked about kind of relentlessly in the last 24 months has been the future of the Department of Education. It feels like we're about to have something big maybe happen or change there. What would you like to see if, in fact, the administration says it's time for the Department of Education to go away?
Well, President Trump promised numerous times on the campaign trail that he was going to get rid of the Federal Department of Education. And within just a few months of being in office, Secretary McMahon has done so much to keep that promise on behalf of the president, eliminating half of the employees, and moving responsibilities off to other agencies, most recently with interagency agreements, including a huge shift of workforce-related programs to the Department of Labor. Makes the most sense. That's where these education programs would belong. But she's got a little bit more work to do, although we've made incredible progress.
Well, I don't think a lot of people understand this if they're new to the conversation. Because when you say you want to get rid of the Department of Education, people that are uninitiated say, well, why would you want to do that? Education's a good thing. But the truth is, this is a department that's kind of never had like a solid vision for what it's trying to accomplish. The results have been worse for American students every year it's been in existence. And it's a bloated democracy that you've just pointed out probably should have whatever work is actually doing being done by departments that are better able to handle it. Is that a fair summary of where they're at?
Absolutely. People need to understand that the Federal Department of Education has never educated a single child. In its 45 years of existence, we've spent over $3 trillion, and academic performance has stagnated or declined. All it does is push papers and funding down to the state level where the responsibility should lie for both academic performance and the accountability for schools. Right now, the Federal Department of Education despite its massive bureaucracy, is not doing much of anything to improve student outcomes or even ensure that students are receiving the services that are promised by federal law. And that's why the president and Secretary McMahon want to return education to the states, to give responsibility to the states, and so that voters like me and you, moms and dads, know where they need to go to hold people accountable if the education system is not serving their child well.
Well, the truth is, and we kind of know this instinctively, but the data bears it out, I believe, that the closer the voter is to the decision makers in proximity, geographically, actually, the stronger the performance of whatever department that it is. So, if you need your garbage picked up in your local village, getting the federal government to try to address that is really useless. Same thing with education. Nobody knows what's going on in my district except the parents that live here and the parents that are involved in the, going to the school board meetings and having that role to play. If the state is in charge of whatever funds are available for public education, there's going to be more accountability by the people who are their neighbors than there are going to some, marble building in Washington, D.C. to try to get it straightened out.
Well, we found this out during the Common Core battle. If those who were paying attention at the time remember, that's how I came to know where decisions were made. I talked to my child's teacher. She said, I have nothing to do with it. I don't even know what this is. I talked to the principal. I talked to the district. I talked to the state representative, and they all started pointing the finger to Washington and saying that this is being made at the federal level. Then I find out there's some carrot and stick going on with the Federal Department of Education where they say, well, we're not forcing them to change the curriculum to Common Core, but they were holding federal funds over their heads.
Yeah.
Same thing the Biden administration did when it came to transgender bathrooms. They were using federal funding to force schools to allow boys in women's sports and in women's locker rooms and bathrooms. And this is what the Federal Department of Education has been, simply a weaponization for the purpose of radical ideology.
That's why I really want people to understand that when you hear the administration and you hear people like Erika or me talk about defunding the Department of Education, it's not because any of us want the students to learn less. We're actually advocating for better education. And that brings me to some more of these little known facts. During COVID, the Department of Education, or the unions rather, that they seem to be in kind of lockstep with, were actually the ones that wrote the education policy for Health and Human Services in terms of how kids would proceed with education during the pandemic. And we found out years later, that none of the stuff that they were vexed about had any impact on the kids except negative ones. And the one thing that it all guaranteed was that teachers would get paid whether they taught or not during that time.
That's right. And the Federal Department of Education, its origination was as a gift to the teachers union, and it has acted as a consolidation of power at the federal level where the teachers unions have one place to go to influence and get their agenda across. And of course, we saw that during COVID. Now, Randi Weingarten's trying to rewrite history and act as if she was advocating for schools to reopen when we know that she helped to write the laws and the guidance at the federal level that kept the schools closed after also calling it racist and misogynistic to try to open the schools. So we need to take away that centralization of power from the unions. We do want to make sure the funding gets to the students, and President Trump and Secretary McMahon have promised that, but that means that the state are going to be responsible in order to make sure that the students are getting those services, no longer having to report that up, but working with parents, working with schools and school districts to ensure those services are met.
I think that's all a positive move, especially for the average student in America. But we still have a long way to go in terms of getting students the education that they need. What are some of the proactive steps besides the kind of dismantling of the Department of Education that you and AFPI are most concerned about and would like to see, put forward going forward with this?
Well, I believe a free market in education is really the solution to a lot of the ills in America. We have an education monopoly and a cartel, if you will, between the unions and the school boards that are controlling so much. We need parents to be consumers and them to be in the driver's seat. The One Big Beautiful Bill allowed for the first ever federal tax credit scholarship program that will go into effect in 2027.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. It's That Kevin Show. She's Erika Donalds. Kevin McCullough coming to you from Times Square. Don't go away.
Stick around for more of That Kevin next. That Kevin Here he is from New York. That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. Kevin McCullough, glad to have you with us. It's That Kevin Show, thatkevinshow.com for all things related to it. Erika Donalds is back with us. And Erika from America First Policy Institute, heading up their educational efforts there, educational reform, educational freedom. There's a lot of terms you're not used to hearing with education. We're trying to make that more in vogue, actually. So Erika's doing a great job on that. Recently, there was a Wall Street Journal op-ed that was published whose headline was "College Students Who Can't Do Elementary Math." There's so many things wrong with even that headline in terms of what it says about where we're at with our educational results in this country. Erika, I don't know where to begin, but what do you make of a system that could actually end up with that being the result and somehow trying to argue that we're doing a good job?
We've been hearing this from data and anecdotally for many years now, college professors saying that the students that they're getting are unprepared for that next level of education. More and more remedial classes are being required, about a third of students having to take some sort of remedial classes because they are not ready for college level work. In this case, it is astonishing, the data that's coming out of UC San Diego. I mean, 87%, only 87% of these college students could do first grade math. That means that 13% of students who were accepted into UC San Diego cannot do first grade math.
Wait. First grade is addition and subtraction.
It's the most basic thing. So even if that, you wouldn't even expect 1% to fall into that category, but we're talking about 13%. And they actually did this data for every year of math to the point where 74%, that means every 1 out of every 4 students at UC San Diego cannot do third grade math. Okay, it is an absolute crisis, but this is not unique to UC San Diego. It's great that we have this data to put some numbers on it, but we have seen this happening across the country. It's no wonder our students are unprepared for the workplace and the demands that the American economy has. We are failing them in K-12 education. We see it in the NAEP scores, and we see it now in the college-going preparedness by this very data.
I am scared to ask this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What's the percentage? Because I have a 15-year-old who's a sophomore right now. What's the percentage of people that could functionally do 12th grade senior level math, high school, in college in this study? Would they turn that up?
The data they provided to us that I have at my fingertips goes up to 8th grade.
Okay, 8th grade. Let's do the highest grade they have.
Though, if you extrapolate it, so in 8th grade math, only 19% of those college students could do 8th grade math. Just set that in for, and we're being told that these high schoolers, when they receive a diploma, that they are graduating with high school level math skills, college and career readiness. We test our students generally in the 10th grade for 10th grade math skills to pass them along. So what does that tell you? We have watered down the requirements so much.
You think?
You can have kids graduating and getting into college who aren't even capable of doing elementary math.
Erika, that's one of the most frightening things you've ever talked about on my show. And I am two things. I'm very grateful that my kids are such hardworking students. Because I think my 15-year-old is going to be a math, science, chess, Latin. That's the posse he runs with. But that is frightening. 1 in 4 can't do third grade math, which is it's multiplication and division, if I remember correctly. And 4 out of 5 can't do 8th grade, which is what, pre-algebra?
That's correct.
Oh,
and this is a national crisis in reading and in math. We've talked about many times on your show how only 1 in 3 students are reading proficiently in this country. And it's astonishing that it has gone on for this long and we haven't seen wholesale reforms in the way that we educate our children. But that is why, as we talked about in the last segment, education freedom and a free marketplace in the education sector has to be the solution here. We cannot trust the government monopoly to continue this level of watering down, congratulating themselves, increasing graduation rates, while yet these students do not have the skills and knowledge necessary to achieve the American dream.
But if you think about it, and again, this is what, San Diego? So you're talking about California, state standards being layered into the federal, which is probably as watered down, if not more so, than the federal standards. And it strikes me that, with all the other problems that the state of California has, that wouldn't kind of drip over into education as well.
It will no longer be acceptable. We will get rid of the Federal Department of Education and we will give every family education freedom.
Erika Donalds, appreciate you so much. Thanks for being here.
Here he is from New York. That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. It's That Kevin Show, thatkevinshow.com. Kevin McCullough at your service. Always happy to be here and always happy to talk to my next guest, though it's only happened a few times over the 20-plus years I've been on the air. But Lee Strobel, probably most famously, is a former reporter for the Chicago Tribune who, through a complete investigative look at what the Christian faith claimed, went from atheism to being a believer. And he rejoins us. He's written a lot of books about this. The Case for Christ, his most well-known one, that inspired a lot of people. Eventually, they made a movie about it. And Lee, it's good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Hey, my pleasure, Kevin. Always great to talk with you. It's a great opportunity.
You're writing books and you're making movies as your kind of full-time passion now. You were in ministry when we knew each other back in the Chicago days. But your latest one is called The Case for Miracles. And I want to ask, before we get into the substance of that, all of your books you've approached from that same investigative mindset.
Yes.
Kind of for the skeptics, kind of for the people that may be unconvinced, but may be open to it.
Yes.
Just tell me a little bit about how the Lord has used that approach in terms of what you hear from people as they read your claims, not just from your original book, but from all of them that have followed after that. The Case for Grace, Case for Heaven, and now The Case for Miracles.
Well, my technique as a former investigative journalist trained in law is to seek out the world's leading experts on these various topics and then subject them to interviews. Some of them take days of interviews.
Rigorous interviews, you might say.
Rigorous, and I shrink them down to one chapter. But some of the tough questions I had when I was an atheist and force them to give answers that I can understand, because I figure if I get it, anybody can get it. And so I don't have to be the world's leading expert on these things. I find them and I cross-examine them, and including skeptics. My book, The Case for Miracles, starts out with 3 chapters where I interview the #1 skeptic in America, Michael Shermer, the founder and editor of Skeptic Magazine. And I say, lay it out. Why don't you believe in miracles? And he does. And then I spend the rest of the book responding to the objections that he made. We even have him in our movie. So, we're not afraid to deal with people who have questions and doubts. That's fine. But let's look at where the evidence points.
Well, and that's just the bottom line. Ultimately, the evidence does point to a God who mercifully loves us, graciously wants to be reconciled to us, and calls us to himself kind of unendingly throughout our life. And your life is a beautiful example of that. But what you've done in your book since then, I think, has impacted a lot of people. Miracles are something that a lot of people are writing about these days. Our mutual friend Eric Metaxas wrote a book a couple of years ago. My friend Dr. Mark Siegel at Fox News just released a book about miracles.
That he did.
Why is the fascination there so compelling to people about what supernatural God touching us in this life might look like?
I think part of it is because we've now got investigators who are checking out these miraculous claims and documenting them, many times in peer-reviewed medical journals. So, in other words, the kind of miracles we deal with in my book and in the movie are miracles that you don't just read on the internet and wonder, could that be true? It's not just somebody driving down the street and saying, it's a miracle, I got a parking spot. I mean, these are cases that have been documented by multiple medical researchers and many times published in medical journals. I'll give you an example. There's a woman who was blind for 12 years with an incurable condition, juvenile macular degeneration. She went to school for the blind. She learned to read Braille, and she married a Baptist pastor. One night, they're getting ready to go to bed. He puts his hand on her shoulder. He begins to cry. He begins to pray. And he says, Lord, I know you can heal my wife. I know you can do it. And I pray you do it tonight. And with that, she opened her eyes and saw her husband for the first time. That after years of darkness, I opened my eyes. I could see perfectly. It's a miracle.
And the first thing she got to see was her husband's face, which was
isn't that amazing?
I'm getting the chills just hearing you tell that story.
I know. Now,
but let me ask you this.
That case was documented, by the way, by multiple medical researchers and published in a peer-reviewed medical journal.
Well, macular degeneration is physically able to be documented. Like, you can tell that that's happening.
Absolutely.
So the fact that she can then go sighted
instantaneously heal.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, because I think some people, I struggle with it. What's the difference between God answering our prayer, just in or let me better put it this way: are all answers to prayer in essence miracles?
That's a good question. You know, I think a miracle technically is defined as an event brought about by the power of God that's a temporary exception to the ordinary course of nature for the purpose of showing that God has acted in history. So technically, I think a miracle is something that is an intervention that intervenes in the natural laws. I don't know that every answered prayer, you're right. In a sense, it's miraculous, but not technically a miracle because it may not be something that violates the law of gravity, for instance.
Well, I wanted to verify that, because what I want people to understand is you're not talking about a bunch of colloquial stories of people that prayed for this and then it happened. You've gone into the scientific here, and you're documenting stuff that's really going to be amazing. The movie is going to make a very short run here very soon. Where can people go to get tickets and take a look at it?
Yeah, you can see the trailer and get tickets, put in your zip code at thecaseformiraclesmovie.com.
I'll repeat that a couple of times before we're done. Thecaseformiraclesmovie.com. The Case for Miracles, all one word, movie, add that one too, .com, thecaseformiraclesmovie.com. Lee Strobel, my guest. Lee, the obsession with the bigger substance. Gen Z, I hear talk a lot about wanting to really try to figure out what's true. My pastor on a regular basis talks about how, as a pastor, many up till just a few years ago, when he would be at his kid's lacrosse game or whatever, people would come up and say, "Hey, Ryan, what are you doing now?" And he's like, "Well, I'm a pastor." They kind of slink away, like, okay, whatever. But that's in the New York tri-state area here. There's different kind of modes across the country. But in recent years, when they come up and they talk to him, they say things like, "Hey, we need more of what you guys are doing. Hey, tell me more about that." A couple have said, "Can I come to his church?" Is there, from your sense of being out and around, are we in a moment right now where it seems like the Spirit of God is working, and maybe miracles are a sign that are going to be used to help people, ask those bigger questions?
I think so. I think God is stirring something in our culture.
TheCaseForMiraclesMovie.com, TheCaseForMiraclesMovie.com, and Take some friends. Take a whole
Yes.
boatload of people.
Stick around for more of That Kevin next.
Everybody could be in the room watching our professionals like Mitch Bradley, Admiral Mitch Bradley, and others at JSOC and SOCOM and other commanders. The deliberative process, the detail, the rigorous, the intel, the legal, the evidence-based way that we're able to, with sources and methods that we can't reveal here, that make sure that every one of those drug boats is tied to a designated terrorist organization. We know who's on it, what they're doing, what they're carrying. All these white bales are not Christmas gifts from Santa. This is drugs running on motor fast boats or submarines that we've also struck. No one's fishing on a submarine. And I have empowered them to make that call. Now, the first couple of strikes, as any leader would want, you want to own that responsibility. So I said, I'm going to be the one to make the call after getting all the information and make sure it's the right strike. That was September 2nd. There's a lot of intelligence that goes into that, building that case and understanding that. A lot of people providing information. I watched that first strike live. As you can imagine, at the Department of War, we got a lot of things to do. So I didn't stick around for the hour and 2 hours, whatever, where all the sensitive site exploitation digitally occurs. So I moved on to my next meeting. A couple of hours later, I learned that commander had made which he had the complete authority to do, and by the way, Admiral Bradley made the correct decision to ultimately sink the boat and eliminate the threat. He sunk the boat, and eliminated the threat.
Somewhere in the city that defined holiday magic is a man who wants a little eggnog with his mistletoe. And that guy would like to carol you. Featuring the musical stylings of Mal Tunney and the Dream in Color Singers. Still to come, more fun for your holiday weekend, including Bonnie Keene with a new song in the New Music Spotlight, and also Phil Cunningham, the #1 director of the #1 family-friendly film this holiday. It's all straight ahead on That Kevin Show. And now, from Times Square, where holiday cheer competes daily with those aggressive pigeons, here's That Kevin!
I'm McCullough. Happy weekend, everyone. The only place where the news is stranger than late-night comedy and somehow even less believable. We begin with the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, proudly announcing that his marriage is as strong as it's ever been, which is exactly the kind of thing you only say publicly when it's definitely strong and absolutely not because your spouse just found your browser history in Washington politics. This is known as the Public Display of Affection Act of 2025. Meanwhile, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has gone radio silent on whether she plans to revise her end-of-the-world prediction. You know, the one where we all explode in a ball of carbon around, well, right about now. When pressed for comments, aides said she's very busy checking her watch, waiting for the oceans to rise and polar bears to file their lawsuits. On the health front, Simon Cowell, the man who has made millions by judging other people, says he's aging backwards thanks to a controversial blood rinsing procedure. Yeah. Doctors warn that side effects may include looking suspiciously younger than your last season on television and waking up being Benjamin Button. In entertainment news, George Clooney once tricked Hollywood royalty into believing that Bill Clinton prank called them, which is hilarious until you realize for the most of the 90s, Bill Clinton basically did prank call all of America. The D.C. pipe bomb suspect appeared in court today, or this week rather, with the family cheering him like he'd just graduated from clown college. CNN's Jake Tapper briefly called the suspect a white man, right before showing a photo of someone who, well, wasn't. Somewhere journalism professors wept, then updated their syllabus to include step 1, look at the picture! The federal government rolled out a new Christmas tree savings plan because nothing says fiscal discipline like discount pine. You're going to throw it away in 30 days while the national debt climbs another $1 trillion. A new study says America's most stressful airport is all of them. But one was crowned the champion due to its unique blend of long check-ins, departure delays, and TSA agents who haven't seen things they can never unsee. Finally, California has escalated its war on grocery bags, now banning reusable ones. State officials insist they are saving the planet, one increasingly expensive trip to Whole Foods at a time. For Assignment Desk Weekend, I'm Kevin McCullough.
Letters go out in the fall, so I'm always eager to read about the kid adopting me. I like to get different kinds, like a collect all 10 kind of thing. I'm still missing Mexican. Boys usually want boy elves, and they name us cool stuff like Shredder or Thor. And the girls, well, the girls want girl elves. Usually. My name is Sparkles, and I'm an elf on the shelf. What's our ideal family? They have a nice house in a warm part of the country. They change the battery in the smoke alarm. Only children. Only children, jackpot. The fewer the kids to watch, the better. Nobody wants like the Duggars or Mormons. My first contract was in 2005. I shipped off to my first interaction with people. I was adopted by a wonderful Pentecostal family. They spoke in fast tongues and they were always dancing and very charismatic. Come to find out, they were actually just Puerto Rican. This is a photo of me with John Cena. He's a tough one to meet in person, so I had to sign up for Make-A-Wish. Celebrity households can be hit or miss. I knew an elf who got Bill Belichick's household last year, which we thought was weird since he doesn't have any young kids. What's a normal day look like? Well, I identify as trans-slender, but biology hasn't seemed to care, so my day starts out by trying to outrun 12 hours of sitting on my fat butt. After that, it's potty time. Once I get in position, I can't move, so if I don't get it out now, I end up stamping my underwear all day. Then I clock in for a long day of hiding and staring at children. It sounds like a felony, but it's not. My job is essentially to make sure the kids behave. My job is the parent's job. It doesn't even have to be a great hiding spot when they're entranced by an iPad all day. And if they find me, great, but can't touch me or I lose my magic. I just say that because when I was a kid, my G.I. Joes saw more mutilation than a furry convention. Then once they've turned in for the night, I'm burning the midnight oil with daily reports back to Santa on everything I saw and heard during the day. What is a 6-7? You work long hours, Sparkles. You must get a lot of overtime pay. Yes, however, I am paid in a different currency. Children's joy. Not traded on the Forex market, but the upside is my job is safe from AI. The downside is there's no conversion rate for smile dollars. Can't make a hoopty payment with chuckle bucks. The mensch on a bench? I know he don't work for free.
Light in the distance, and if you listen, you'll hear it calling your name.
David! Come on, let's go!
I'm just a shepherd. But deep down, I know
I can take on the world!
There is a darkness over the land. Our enemies will strike once more.
Imagine the biggest warrior you have ever seen.
Okay.
Now imagine somebody ate him.
Remember when I told you God had big plans for you?
You will serve us.
They may have been bigger than even I thought. Would you mind?
David, you saved us!
No, it's not about me!
Who better to lead us into battle than David?
I never asked for this.
really think one stone is enough to defeat my entire army? We have to get our family to safety.
This is all my fault. The people are divided, David. I am trying to reunite us. How great is your name?
David will rescue us.
David! I can't do this alone. I trust my shepherd to look after me.
David!
Where are you going?
To bring our people home.
To that Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. It's Kevin McCullough, That Kevin Show, thatkevinshow.com for everything that you need to know about the show. Podcasts, videos, columns, it's all there. Super simple, never behind a paywall. Always want you to have access to it. My next guest has maybe the biggest faith-based movie hit in quite a while coming to theaters, and he is very excited about it. But I saw the first clip of it, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 years ago, but it actually began to be a little germ of an idea way before that. Phil Cunningham is his name, and he's the director of the new film called David by Angel Studios, coming to theaters this weekend. Phil, it's good to have you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Kevin. It's honestly my privilege to be with you and chatting with you. Thank you.
To take on this Bible story, which is one of the legendary stories. In fact, I think if you go to most cultures around the world, most people have heard of King David in biblical history, whether they're Christians or not. So to approach this kind of enormous task of telling that story, where did it all come from? Tell us the story of your story.
Thank you. Well, weirdly, it started over 30 years ago for me. I was born in a beautiful country called Zimbabwe in Africa, canoeing down a river called the Zambezi River, and you could canoe for 4 days, 5 nights, wouldn't see a human being. And while I was out there just looking up at the galaxies, the thunderstorms, the elephant, the buffalo, one day I was charged by this lion across the Zambezi plains, and I was like, wow, God is awesome. And I really fell in love with God, the adventurous heart of God, the expansive heart of God, and even like a little flower along the riverbank, the kind and beautiful heart of God. And I was like reading David's story at the same time, and it says in Acts, it says, I found in David, son of Jesse, a man after my own heart. And I was like, I was nowhere near the movie industry at that time, by the way. I was like, wouldn't it be awesome if we could tell a story on David's life? I think it would give people a glimpse of God's heart. And so that's where the idea was birthed. As a little boy, I always used to draw cartoons, but I grew up in an agricultural wildlife world.
Right.
And but that's where it was birthed. 37 years ago, actually, was where the idea was framed. Just to tell you.
Obviously, over time, technology got a lot more enhanced in terms of what it can do. The style of animation that this is, if people have not seen the trailer, how would you describe it?
So I'd say it's CG animation, so it's like a modern-day Disney, Pixar, DreamWorks film.
Right.
And that's the style of animation. Just to say that's the style.
How many writers did it require to kind of pull? Because you've got a lot of material to work with. The narrative on David is pretty long, and he has all these different windows of time in his life, and that we get to kind of peek in on see. And some of the stuff, even after he becomes king, is really formational and very important. Some of it not quite so family friendly as some of the early adventure stuff. But what went into deciding what made it into the story?
That's amazing. I mean, just to say, it's a huge team effort animation. So on this film, I'll get to the writing, but nearly 500 people over 10 years is how long we've been actually making the film.
Wow.
In over 32 countries around the world. And one of my huge passions is quality. So it's just quickly to give you a story, walking through Paris with Jackie, my wife, we were looking up at the Arc de Triomphe and just looking up at the scale of it, the attention to detail. And as a filmmaker, we were like, oh, wow. If you look at the rest of Paris, you've got office blocks and factories And as filmmakers, we could churn money and just make movies like that. Or we set out to try and make, and I hope we achieved this beautiful Arc de Triomphe that's like a beacon of inspiration to the world. But going back to your question on the story, I'll just say this, is that it was really critical to us that it was authentic. So we did 5 trips to Israel. We worked with Jewish rabbis, Christian leaders, faith leaders, and I was saying to the team, listen, if you take comic book fans, you can't take Superman's cape and put it on Spider-Man. You're going to upset your comic book fans. Imagine how much more for the faith community, billions of people around the world. This story is precious. You can't go and just mix it up. We need to be deeply rooted and authentic, but we still want it to be a movie that entertains and inspires. So it was, the question you've asked was a really good question, Kevin, because it was really hard to condense that in a way that stays authentic and correct, but also is entertaining and inspiring. And I think that's why part of the reason it took 10 years, because we had to iterate and iterate and iterate. We tried different versions, but we really were passionate about landing a version that is authentic but entertaining. Big story team. In the end, there was one primary writer, which is my fellow director, Brent Dawes, and he was the final script writer. Around him was this big story team, though. And like our head of story, Kevin, was 20 years at Pixar. He worked on movies like Finding Nemo, WALL-E. So he was kind of our head of story, just to mention one person in that story team. Yeah. But big journey, big challenge. But we loved it. It was a
and
fun
the cast is pretty strong too. Talk to us about who voices these characters.
Yeah, so the cast, because obviously that's where you really get the heart and the feeling of your characters is from the voice. We had an amazing casting agent called Ned Lott, based out of Los Angeles, and he's done a lot of the big movies. Like I think he cast Liam Neeson for Aslan in the Narnia series. I think a few standout people. The one is obviously David was a musician and a singer, so we went and looked at a lot of singers, and we found out a lot of singers can't act, but we did find a singer. And that was Phil Wickham. Yeah. He's a very well-known, to the faith community, he's a very well-known musician.
Friend of the show,
But I love what I loved about Phil was he obviously can sing, but he brought this beautiful energy and heart, which felt like David. It felt like he literally was David. And then just the spirits. I mean, so he can act, that's for sure. And he's got an amazing work ethic, Kevin. He'll go again and again and again. Like, we got 20 takes of a line. He's like, I'll give you another 20. We were like, no, that's fine. But he brought a beautiful spirit. Like, his spirit is beautiful. That was adult David. Young David's a less-known actor called Brandon Ingman. Also incredible. He was more an actor who really worked on his singing craft to land the role. And he was in our original, that demo you saw was Brandon. And the two of them just sync so beautifully.
I believe it was, because it was a scene from David's young life that was in the demo that I was able to see. So it comes out this weekend. Working with Angel Studios, what was that like for you?
Oh, amazing. I just think for this movie, I'll tell you why. So the studio that we own is called Sunrise Animation Studios in Cape Town, although we've got people all around the world. So that's the studio that made the movie. Working with Angel, though, as our distributor and friend on the project in many ways, was amazing. And I'll tell you why I say that, because when David went to fight Goliath, there's a beautiful scene. He goes down and everyone's trying to put Saul's armor on him, the swords and the shields. He's got the courage to take it all off, and he goes authentically with his sling. And what I love about Angel is that, if I can say, when the world zigs, they zag. They're very much out-of-the-box thinkers. And I think that's what this movie needed. It was not a traditional, this is how you bake the cake kind of approach. Mm-hmm. The whole story is about a guy who wasn't that kind of guy. He was an adventurer. He pushed boundaries. And Angel are a disruptor, and they're very out of the box. And I just love the way they work. And I really felt, and they are, I think, an amazing fit for this particular movie.
Well, it opens this weekend in theaters by Angel Studios. It has been in the work for 37 years. You got to go see it. It's called David in a theater near you. Phil Cunningham, the director, thank you for being with us, and thanks for your diligence in getting the project done. Sometimes people lose heart when something takes 37 years to do, but you didn't, and you're to be congratulated for that.
Thank you, Kevin. I really appreciate being on the show. Thank you.
Welcome back to Times Square. It's Kevin McCullough, That Kevin Show. Everything found at thatkevinshow.com. Very glad to have you with us. And as we've been talking through this holiday season, going back even just before Thanksgiving, but all the way through, you know the passion that I have at this point in the year to help actually bring liberated slaves home from captivity. And we've been partnering with Christian Solidarity International and someone else that I didn't have any idea that was also passionate about this until she just released a new song and a new video related to this, and was told by the brass at CSI. They said, "Hey, do you know Bonnie Keen?" And I said, "Well, kind of. She sang on the jingle for the show," and she now joins us. Bonnie, it's good to have you here. Thank you for being here.
Kevin, thank you so much for having me on. It's really an honor. I'm so excited to be here.
Now, for people that go, Bonnie Keen, where do I know her from? Well, every Christian record in the 1980s had your vocals on it, backing, people like Steve Patty and who knows, Steve Green, Larnell Harris, a whole ton of them. And of course, First Call was the name of that group. Our mutual good friend Mel Tunney kind of pulling you guys together. And I want to talk about a ton of different things with you, but I want to focus in on the most important one first, and that is you have had a passion birthed within you to set slaves free and to tell people about the work of what CSI is doing. What was it about that grabbed your heart?
Well, I think over the last few years, I've just been watching more closely the persecuted church around the world. And I'm just blown away by how many are suffering and dying for their faith every day. And a lot of the media doesn't cover that in the U.S. And I'm like, how can I raise awareness about that? Because as the family of God, we really, I think, have a responsibility to be aware, to pray at least, but to speak about and to be part of helping them. I just am so excited about what CSI is doing around the world. And I wrote a song on my new project called Gethsemane Brave. And that song for me has been very important. It really is a call to be courageous in this hour we're in. I think in our shoes and our time, that God is giving us an opportunity to be more effective around the world than we've ever been. But right now, for whatever reason, he's allowing that, and I want to be part of it. And this song is about being courageous people that live and die literally for their faith. Because I'm a very cushy person. I've got a cushy life. I've never really suffered for my faith like that. But we have many, many Christians dying and dying with praise on their lips. Yeah. But how can we set them free? So I'm thrilled to be partnering with CSI, just to be one of the people that's able to speak about this. I love what you're doing. The thought of freeing slaves, literally freeing lives from slavery, just kind of makes my heart soar. It makes it really pump harder. So I really appreciate you asking me about it.
Well, it's an honor for us. It's one of those things where when I first heard about what CSI was doing, and it's probably 12 years ago, it was hard for me to get my head around the fact that there were actually still slaves on planet Earth. Because, Wilberforce and abolitionism.
Right. We don't think about that.
We've conquered all that, right?
Right,
no,
supposedly.
In reality, there are more slaves in captivity now than ever in human history. Right. And the problem for us, particularly in the West, is that we're just too shielded from all of it. We don't have to look at things we don't want to look at anymore. Everything's on demand. Everything's easy. Everything's convenient. And we can shove all the ugly, uncomfortable stuff under the rug if we want to. And when they really kind of peeled the onion back and said, "Hey, Kevin, look in here and see what's going on," it was just heart-wrenching. And then so that was my first introduction to CSI. And then during COVID, I'm doing the show from my house, my radio studio set up, and my kids, who of course aren't in school because it's COVID,
are
listening to Dad go off, on this slave issue. And some of them were in grades where they were starting to touch on that in American history. And they cornered me after the show that day, and they said, "Dad, what are you talking about?" And I told them, and they said, "Well, what are we doing about it?"
Wow, there's the question right there.
Well, we give each month, and they said, "How much?" And they were like getting up in my business.
Wow.
And I said, "Well, here's what we're giving." And they said, "That's not enough." And they said,
"Wow."
They called a family meeting, and they said, "We're going to talk about this." And
from that point,
to now, we've tried imperfectly. There's been a few times where we've missed, but this year we've been able to do a little bit more. But the goal for the McCulloughs is to free one slave every month, indefinitely, until they're all home, which at the peak in Sudan, there were about 185,000 women that were held captive. That's down to about 35,000 now. But one by one, we're bringing them home, and we want people to join us in that effort. And so we're gonna play your song, and we're gonna obviously tell that message.
Stick around for more of That Kevin next. That Kevin Here he is from New York. That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back, Kevin McCullough. Glad to have you with us, and very, very pleased to have my very special friend and guest, Bonnie Keen, with us. We haven't talked a lot, Bonnie, in person, but we know a lot of people in the same circles, and so it feels like kind of family members that just kind of got back together a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about your career and, as a jingle singer, as part of First Call, as really, because when I say every record in the 80s and 90s, that's what you guys did. Besides making the two greatest Christmas albums that have ever been recorded in human history, called An Evening in December Part 1 and 2, you have really you've really seen some incredible accomplishment. And when you look back at it, do you ever sit back and go, wow, what a
all
fun ride?
The time I say, how in the world? Only the grace of God, because I was raised in a very fundamental church that taught me that we couldn't sing with instruments on stage or perform. And in the middle of all that, God just poured music into me as a young child. And then as I grew up, I knew nothing about CCM music at all.
Right.
I was living next door to Amy Grant's managers when they first put her on the road with a band, and they asked me to go out and sing backup for her. I had never heard of her. I was like, okay, that'll be a job. I was singing in clubs. I was doing theater.
This is the very beginning.
This is the very beginning. I mean, literally, I go, and then I look at, because it's very much to me connecting the dots. I was out with Russ Tapp. I'd never heard of him when he left the Imperials. I rode with him for 2.5 years, and I began to be introduced to CCM through all of these experiences. Then met Mel and Marty in First Call, and we were both all three of us were doing a lot of studio work, like you said, jingles and Wrigley commercials and Dodge things, and singing background vocals. And we had this unique sound together. And Mel Tunney, who's like my sister, I love her so much, the alto in the group, sat us down and said, let's start a group. Let's start a group called First Call, because we all love Christ. And we hope to be the first people called to sing on these projects. And Sandy, all these people started using us, Sandy Patty. And then she took us on the road with her, and we began to do albums. Evening in December was an all a cappella project that we just recorded as a studio group.
Right.
And then we're getting Dove Award, Grammy nominations, and we're like, what is God doing here? And honestly, Kevin, it's just been the grace of God blessing so much favor over us. 14 albums later, 25 plus years of ministry and work, and just being able to be around so many great artists. It's just been a total gift in my life.
Yeah.
And then this is my 4th solo project, and I'm so grateful to still be singing and still be talking about my faith. I'm more excited now than ever to be more bold and courageous for Christ in this act 3 of my life. And I'm just on fire more than ever right now. I feel like sometimes it's like the verse in the Bible where Jeremiah said, there's a fire in my bones. I just can't be quiet. So I'm very, very grateful.
It's not a bad fire to have.
No.
Talk to me about, we've touched on it, Gethsemane Brave is part of that project. You've got another song that addresses trafficking, but what was the vision for what you wanted to get across in this new one?
In Gethsemane Brave?
And on the album as a whole.
On the whole album? I didn't anticipate this album. It really came again as a gift to me. Larry Hall, my producer, he and his wife Susan, she has since passed from cancer. But they came to me in 2021 And Larry said, it's been a while since you've done an album. Let's do one. And I said, really? And I was just going through a really tough season. Everybody, I think, went through a unsettling time during COVID.
Ugh.
I went through a divorce, and I did not see that coming. And I really thought my life is pretty much done, and ministry will never happen again. And then Larry said, what's on your heart right now? And he began to just give me the freedom to say, what do you want to write? What do you want to say? Let's do it. And what a healing process it was to go back in the studio with him. I've written 8 songs. One of them is called Adeste Fideles, which means, oh, come all you faithful. But I had read something years ago that Brennan Manning wrote in the Ragamuffin Gospel about all of us that love Christ need to still keep coming through the doubts and the failures and the tatters of our lives. Keep coming to him. When you think you can't come, keep coming because he is faithful. And I mean, I've got so many songs on this project that I just wanted to, to put to music to words. And like Cry Like a Bell is about raising awareness for child sex trafficking. I love the work of the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Association here in Nashville, because they rescue, like you're talking about, rescuing souls, rescuing people out of slavery and bondage and trafficking. I want to raise awareness in the church more than ever of what we really need to be part of, to get out of our comfort zone. And for myself as well, the biggest challenge, let's be uncomfortable enough with the gospel to take it into the really dark corners of the world. So there's songs like that. And then there's a song for like my grandkids called God Will Love You. When the sun does rise, he will smile right into your eyes. And I wanted it to be a song about their whole life. God will love you when you lose your way.
Yeah.
He will let, so there's just a lot of songs I'm very, very passionate about. And then I did some cover songs, but I really am excited about this project. It's not a very commercial album. It's very artistic.
It sounds like a collector's item. I mean, it sounds like a real unique. And
it's unique.
The CSI guys send me the video and they're like, Bonnie recorded this song, Gethsemane Brave. I've taken a look at it. I'm going, wait,
Phil Keggy.
That's Phil Keggy in there. Like,
I know.
They buried the lead. Like Phil Keggy guitar duets with you on Gethsemane Brave. And it's really, really cool.
Isn't he fabulous? I know. And Phil and I have known each other for all these years. And Bernadette, his wife, but he never played on any First Call albums and never played on my project. That was the last song we recorded. And that to me was kind of like that anchor song. And he called me, goes, Bonnie, this is so cool. I kind of hear these swampy guitar and then this. And I was like, Phil, I was just, Phil,
if you hear it, you play it.
And then he goes, and I said, can I take some video? Yeah, come on over. So, we've got these wonderful clips of him in the studio. And again, just the mercy and the grace and favor of God on this project feels so sweet.
And for those of you listening or watching, Phil Keggy just happens to be the greatest guitar player in human history. So deemed
Paul McCartney
by Eddie Van Halen. Yes. So,
And Paul McCartney,
yes.
Like he's world renowned and one of the most humble, beautiful souls you would ever meet.
Truly.
So the Lord is good. The Lord just takes, every season we're in, it's not over yet.
Well, the name of the album is...
It's just my name. It's self-titled.
Bonnie Keen. And I'm assuming it's Spotify.
It's everywhere. Spotify, Apple, everywhere.
Go get it and enjoy it. And now that we're going into the new year, we need some new stuff to listen to because we're packing the Christmas stuff away.
For more of That Kevin, next. That Kevin.